All right. Hey, what's going on, brother?
Good afternoon, good evening. Bernard, how you doing?
Yeah, how you doing, sir?
Oh, not
I'm
bad.
doing great, man.
Thank you.
I'm doing
Thank you
great.
for having me on the show.
Been a long day, but that's great. I'm back, man. I mean, late notice, but hey, man, it is what it is.
No problem.
Trying to feel, trying to feel the obligation that I said I was gonna do.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Without further ado, this is Bishop Scott. Here's the Gerald Scott show on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Call in number is 515. I might not remember the rest.
602 9655.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've just called you. I mean, I just getting in contact with you. I'm gonna bring the same subject up later, but I was gonna talk to you about this MLK thing. Everybody was talking about MLK yesterday, and so my situation always is very interesting. When I bring up Martin Luther King, I always say, which one are we talking about?
Yes.
Are you talking about the one before 1966 to 68, or are you talking about the one through 1960? Um,
From
uh,
55 to
yeah,
60, from 55 to 67 versus the one from 67 to 68 when he passed, when he finally was assassinated.
yes. And I said, if you're talking about that king, civil rights king, I'm not trying to hear about that. I want to hear the one that said, I want to come get my check, and I want to hear about the one that said that gave my people into a burning house.
Well, it's just ironic.
Yesterday I was sitting out. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's ironic
Go
we're
ahead.
talking about it tonight because I was listening to both of his 1968 speeches. The one that he calls about America, and then the other one was the day that the day before he died on April the 3rd, 1968. Of course, he died. He was assassinated on April the 4th. And you're right. It's so radically different the approach that he took. He still was nonviolent, no doubt about it, but he did not have the optimism that he once had, that he could work within the system to make change. I think that he began to shift. And I believe that the shifting is the thing that predicated his death. I think once he shifted from the integration and kumbaya kind of approach to the more stern, more condemning, really, approach, I think that's when he fell out of favor with the power structure. Even President Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was at one time his friend. I mean, they worked together on the Civil Rights Act. They worked together on the Voting Rights Act. They worked together on the Fair Housing Act in the 60s. But once he began to move away from the traditional position and began to look at things a little differently, I think when he went from the South to the North, and even to Tennessee and other places outside of Alabama, outside of Georgia, he saw that racism may have looked a little different, but it was there nevertheless. And in a more insidious way, because they gave the impression that they weren't racist, that they weren't segregationists, but in fact they were. I remember when he went to Chicago, and this was a turning point for him. When he went to Chicago to deal with, once again, fair housing and other things of that nature, speaking for the poor and those who were living in poverty in the city of Chicago, he was treated very poorly by the white citizens there. They were stoning him, they were spitting at him, they were doing all kinds of things. And he said himself, he never experienced quite this type of venom, not even in
Yeah.
Alabama
Let
and
me,
in
let me say
Georgia.
something. Let me say something about that. And
Yeah,
one
go
of
ahead.
the white citizens that was marching against him was Hillary Clinton.
I'm sure she was. Because keep in mind,
Okay.
during that time, Hillary was a Barry Goldwater girl. And Barry Goldwater was totally against civil rights. In fact, he voted against the Civil Rights Act of 1964. He voted and was vehemently against the act. He was the Republican candidate for president
You want to know
during the
something?
time of Lyndon Johnson. He ran against
You want to
Lyndon
know
Johnson,
something?
of course, was defeated.
You know, want to know something? Actually, Malcolm X told his supporters to vote for Barry Goldwater.
Mm.
He said, and as a matter of fact, come to think about King, because King also went to Chicago and also faced opposition from other black pastors that told him they didn't want him come preaching that.
Well, I'll be
They
honest
didn't
with you.
want him to be talking about.
Be honest with you, Bernard. Many of the ministers, in particular the northern ministers, were not his friends at all. They thought that his approach was incited too much. They see. I'm going to tell you the truth. Northern, because I'm from the north. I'm from Philadelphia, and northern racism is different than southern racism. You know, it's more insidious because it's hidden racism in a sense. Down south, you know where your place is, you know where your status is. Up north is it's a little cloudier. It's a little more of a gray area. You know, for example, I lived in a place called Darby, which was a suburb of Philadelphia, and we knew our place. There was a section of the town that was all black, and you didn't cross over on literally the railroad tracks to get to the other side unless you wanted to have some kind of problems. You want to have a fight, then you cross over to cross the tracks. But we knew that all of our business, all of our churches, everything that we had to survive was on our side of town. Only time we went into the other side was
Let's say
going to some
something.
supermarkets and
Let's say
things like
something
that.
about that. Let's say something about that.
Mm-hmm.
In all honesty, to be honest with you, it's actually like that, believe it or not, today, mostly. You still segregated mostly.
Oh yeah.
And actually, to be honest with you, and that's what I was trying to tell a guy the other day, actually, to tell you the truth, you probably would be better off. But the problem is, the only problem with this segregation is kind of a weird type of segregation because, like you said, everything you had was there to survive, right?
Right.
This time, everything you have there is not to survive because you're not owning the stores. So it's a little different.
Exactly, and I was going to say that too. In my neighborhood where I live now in North Philadelphia, that's what 99.9% black. We have a few whites here scattered and a few other nationalities and ethnic groups and races, but for the most part, I know at least 95% of the people that live in my immediate neighborhood, which stretches about 6 city blocks, are black. You know, for the most part, but yet we have only one black store in the whole neighborhood. And that store actually is Jamaican. It's not even ADOS. It's not even African American. It's Jamaican Americans that run it. So every other store has either Hispanics or Arabs that are running it from Pakistan, from Puerto Rico, from wherever they may come from. The immigrants are running the neighborhood. And what happens is they come in, they get their monies from us that we work hard to earn. Then they leave and go back to their communities and build their communities up, leaving nothing behind in the very community that they've gotten their wealth and their prosperity from. And that's a little different than when I was growing up. I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and when I wanted to go get my hair cut, I went to the black barber on my street. When I wanted to go to the ma pa store, I went to the black ma pa store on my street. When I wanted to go to the dentist, I went to the dentist, a black dentist, on my street. All the churches were black, 100% black at my time. There was no integration of any sort. White churches were one place, black churches were other places. But our whole life was rooted in our neighborhood, and our neighborhood was black. And so the people that we patronized were black. And keep in mind, they kept the monies in the neighborhood because they went to the black dentist too. They went to the black church too. So they kept their monies within the neighborhood. We don't keep our monies in the neighborhood any longer. Our monies go out, and no services are rendered unto us other than the service that benefits somebody else, not ourselves.
Well, and that's a big problem with today. But so is that when I look at and I don't know if you got the article I sent you yesterday about it was a Rothschild that died.
Oh yeah, this year, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's mighty funny that the Rothschilds also they funded the civil rights movement for a king. So and I'm gonna put up a thing later. Well, I'm gonna bring it up now. Matter of fact, I ain't put it up later. So they funding. So whose movement is this?
Well, I mean, go
Because
back to the NAACP of 1909 in the Niagara movement. The Niagara movement was really the Jews were really very much in charge of that movement. Oh yes, we had black people, and it's ironic because even then it was like a bias because the leadership was always very fair skinned. Walter White, who was the black person, if you want to call him that, W.E.B. Du Bois, other people that were the leadership at the
I
time.
give, I'm gonna give
Well,
you,
really,
I'm gonna give you a,
they could almost pass for Jews. That's how
I'm
light
gonna
they
give you,
were.
I'm gonna give you another little nugget of information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see, you know, like they call it sorority, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got AK, Delta, Phi Beta,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all the sororities, right?
Yeah, the alphas and all the rest. Yeah.
Okay, now nobody ever wants to talk about how AKs really got started.
Mm.
Now, let me talk about it since I brought it
Okay.
up. Okay, now you see Kamala Harris, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's really an Indian, it has nothing to do with us, right?
No.
But AKs had to pass a paper bag brown test. And therefore, when you see a AKA sorority, you always see a light brown skinned
Right.
person.
Right.
Deltas were the darker ones.
And they showed that on the movie School Days, that Spike
Yeah.
Lee, he showed that, just like you're saying, that division. I remember a time that black churches, and I was an AME pastor for over 20 years. When I first started out, and before my time, really, it kind of was there a little bit when I was young, but before my time, you're right. It was only light skinned pastors pastored certain churches, and the brown bag test was used then. You had to, if you were darker than a brown bag, you would not be a pastor. And if you were a pastor, for some unknown reason, they always gave you a small congregation. Never the lead church. Never the church that was the more prominent church, the more dominant church that had the most members. They would give you a church maybe in a mission area, off the boondocks in a little town, in the woods. They may give you that kind of church. But they would never give you a church, what we call a high profile church, where everybody knows who the pastor is. If you look at the history, very few, if any, were really of any dark hue. They didn't have dark skinned pastors.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was saying. Same thing with them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yesterday I wanted to bring something to you,
Uh,
and it's very embarrassing, but nevertheless, they done made the whole Martin Luther King fiasco a basic shit show because uh they had a picture of a person from Black Lives Matter or whatever they twerking at the statue. I'm
mm-hmm.
like, okay, now like I said, say what you want. If it was 1960s King, I could understand it. I still don't understand that, but I'm just saying I can understand why you so giddy because really to tell you the truth, this ain't for all pastors, but a tremendous upon them. And I always say this to people. Really, to be honest with you, George Bush and Obama, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were heavy on that faith-based initiative nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
They really shouldn't. They actually started pastors, the rise of the megachurch, and also they started with this concept of basically churches being more community-based. But really, to tell you the truth, to be honest with you, to me, church leaders should not be endorsing political candidates.
Well, when we came
Uh,
along, you couldn't do it. You couldn't
yeah,
do that. You couldn't
yeah.
be partial one way or the other. You could not. You couldn't even invite them into your congregation when I was first coming along. Later on, they just like you say, they became a little more lenient. They became a little more liberal with the idea. But at one point, that there was a true separation of church and state. But that was at a time when the church did not depend on the government to survive.
Well,
They
that's the point.
themselves, through their donations, through their offerings, through the community itself, uh, uh, sustained the churches. So they didn't
Well,
need federal government monies because we weren't
well,
looking at building
I'm starting
big
the campaign,
structures.
man.
We weren't looking at that.
I'm gonna start saying this out. If I find out, and that's talking to you, I'm talking to my pastors in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you taking political donations, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna start going in your congregation and tell you, hey, look, guys, y'all take y'all tithes and offerings out of this church because
Mm.
they talking political for them. They're working for you. They're working for them.
Yeah, oh yeah, you are. You
Yeah.
are.
So
You are. You are. Because I mean, you're
yeah,
right. I mean,
because I
literally,
mean,
that's why.
that's why I
That's why they
always
have.
say,
I mean, now, I mean, political candidates coming up to church. Look at Obama. He went to many churches. Biden's been to churches. All of them go to churches now, seeking their support, seeking their endorsement. And the church is not supposed to do that.
well,
The church is supposed to be very even-handed, no matter which side of the fence you were on, whether the pastor agreed with it or not. Of course, most pastors had their preference. We all did. Naturally, we voted, so we voted for whoever we were that we leaned toward. But we never put ourselves in a position to influence our congregation. That was not our place. We did not influence them. Whatever way you want to vote, that's your prerogative. That's your right. That's not my right to try to influence you. Because keep in
you
mind,
got some of the
people forget
friends in the
this.
chat.
King was
You
not a
got,
Democrat. He was not. If you're Democrat, I want to, automatic. King was about who's going to help our people. That's all he was caring about. He didn't care about your political persuasion. Now we just goose step, and I mean that literally, because the goose step is what the Nazis did. We goose step wherever the Democrats go. We goose step behind them, but that was not always the case. That was not always the case. We looked at what their intentions were for our people, and if you were willing to help, we encourage your help. We look to you for help. But we didn't do it because you were a Democrat. We didn't do it because you were a Republican. It was your posture in things. And there were many, until really Franklin Roosevelt, most black folk were Republican.
let me say something to you, Bishop. Let me say something to you. You got some friends in the chat. You got Gavin's in the chat.
Good evening, Gavin.
Okay, this young lady named Monique 2C. She is very, very interesting. This woman is from I never known anybody from Idaho, but she's in Idaho, right?
Very few of us are there.
But she's interesting. So I was on a show last week, and
Okay.
I called, and we were talking about something, and I'm gonna add a little bit more to Monique. So Monique, just hold on, because I gotta give you props. She's wonderful. But anyway, I'm supposed to do a show with her. So we were discussing how they are making us scapegoats. Okay, we've been scapegoats, and me and her discussed that in this election, you had, really, to be honest with you, Bishop, this is shocking numbers. 60% of us did not vote because we said there's nothing in it for us. And Democrats rigged the system against us, but they're also painting us as the proverbial chicken hawk for white rage.
Okay.
She said she lives in Idaho and she knows black Trump supporters around her, and she knows people that didn't vote at all. Right?
Right.
Okay. Eva Longoria came out and said that that the Latinos did, but the Latinos came back and wrote told Eva God, wait a minute, we didn't vote for Biden. A lot of us voted for Trump. They said, so you got to retract your statement.
Right.
So when I was talking to another friend of mine, we said, wait a minute, don't put those on us, because a lot of us didn't vote. A lot of us didn't vote for Trump. So we got to start having an accountability system, because you can't keep on putting the onus on us because of what you did. So you need to explain that if this man got 58% of the white vote and 38% of Latinos, and even over 15 to 25% of the black vote. You need to explain where you got that number from. You can't explain it. And that's why I told a person the other day, if you really won the vote, you wouldn't have all this military force at the White House. You
That's
would
true.
have a normal. So she said that she explained to me not more so her fears, but she said that we have to stop being soft target. We also have to have an accountability system of people who put that on us, because when you put something on us and you know it's not true, we are what you call proverbial scapegoats because we're convenient. Just like with um they always talk about the vaccine. No, we're just convenient. We're always what you call, even Black Lives Matter. It's a mostly white crowd, but they put us at the front. It's kind of like at the Civil War. You know the Civil War, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
Black
yeah.
soldiers on the front line. Black
Right.
soldiers on the front line. So it's still like a civil war. They putting you at the front of the line, but you're just a proverbial scapegoat.
Well, we always have been. We came over. I mean, that was our purpose. Really, I look at it like this. And the older I get, the more I study, even the more I listen to you and people like you and others. Um, I really get to the. I really am getting to a position that we are expendable now. Our purpose, our reason for coming over here no longer applies. They brought us over here to be slaves. They brought us over here to be subservient, not equal to, not even on a near about even kill. We were supposed to be like you would bring over a dog from England, or a
Oh,
cat
this year,
from England, or a horse from England, from other countries. You weren't meant to be anything over here. You were meant to work. You were meant to slave. You were meant to be
this year,
subjective and subservient to. You weren't meant to have houses and be mayors and be That's not what we brought you over here for. Our folk gonna do all that. Our folks gonna be the president. Our folk, and then they gave you a little bit of Obama, and we fell for the okie doke. We're falling again for Kamala because they look that hue is like our hue and all of that type of thing. They're not even us, but they look like us. So so once again, we are expendable. And now that the Latinos are moving over here and converging on this nation, they're getting opportunities we don't have, that we never
yeah,
had. I mean, look, I just told you, all the businesses in my street are some other race, some other ethnic group that are in control of that business. They own it, they run it, they don't hire us at all. They'll sell to us. They don't hire us. And if they do hire us, we're the ones who sweeping the floors. That's what we do. And I can tell you 5 of them. That's our job, is to sweep the floor.
okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute. She said they're trying to make us a scapegoat. They're making threats to us if Biden gets in. Okay, Monique, I want to say all you got to do is relate them statistics and go back and say, hey, wait a minute. I didn't even vote, or you didn't vote, or I voted for Trump or something. They say 60, because as I just told you, 60% of us didn't vote. So if they want to come at you saying it, you say, hold on, I ain't had nothing to do with this. Don't blame it on me. Don't worry
Right.
about it, Monique. You get some men to
Well,
protect.
that's what happened with Hillary. They blamed Hillary's loss because we didn't vote. Like they thought, look, there's not an election that African Americans don't vote at least 75, 85, even 90% for the Democratic candidate, the ones that do vote. So don't blame us if your candidate is not good enough. If you look down the list, all the way from Lyndon Johnson till now, we've been staunch. Even candidates like McGovern, who didn't win nothing, we still voted for him in large numbers. Just like candidates like Dukakis, who won but one state, and that was the state he was from, Massachusetts. Out of all the 50, he won one, but we voted for him by 82%. Other people voted for him by 30%. Some voted for him 20%. And you're going to come to us, who at least make 75 to 95% of our voters vote for your candidates, and you're going to blame the defeat on us when Latinos didn't vote for Biden but 50-some%?
I'm gonna give you a statistic, Bishop. You look, check this out, and I'm gonna bring Monique. I'm gonna bring something to your thing, and then I'm gonna answer Gavin's question. Monique, in Georgia, if you realize that you could tell a lot of black folks did not vote in Georgia because in that Senate they had a runoff. The only time you have a runoff if no candidate gets 50% of the vote. So, in all honesty, that would show you if you reflect the numbers around the country, a lot of people, a lot of us stood down. So don't blame me for your. Well, actually, you are blaming me for your failures because you had to use other tactics to win. So,
but my thing, Bernard, is this: that we have traditionally, ever since I would say Franklin Roosevelt, and certainly since Lyndon Johnson, which is what Franklin Roosevelt 1933 and Lyndon Johnson 1964 and 68. We have certainly voted on a large scale, as you well know, because your parents were Democrat. I know mine were. I know my grandparents were. I know I have been. So we vote Democrat. So don't look to us. Don't look to us. I don't care whether we, because like for example, the last two elections, I didn't vote for Hillary, and I sure enough didn't vote for Biden. I'm gonna be honest with you. I voted for a third party candidate. That's what I voted for.
Okay.
So but I don't care. You know, even if you want to argue the point, my thing is that you still get enough of us to vote for you that you should win. So if you're not getting enough votes to win, don't blame us. Keep in mind, we're not even the majority in this country. So you got what white men mainly voted for Trump. Why don't you blame them? Why don't you say, well, white man, why did you vote for Trump? Always want to, like you say, want to make us the scapegoats. Always got to blame us. It's our fault why there's failures in this party. We have the least amount of say in this party. Let's be real about it. Even those guys on Capitol Hill, like Jim Clyburn and Maxine Waters and all those people, they have very little power. They have very little say. So don't be blaming nobody but your own failing. You keep on bringing up people that are no good. Hillary was an awful candidate. Biden's even a worse candidate. Never won a primary to South Carolina this past year. And he's ran 3 times.
Wait a minute. Let me say something to you about that. In all honesty, guess what? He really, in all honesty, didn't even win that. They had to pressure people to drop out to even finagle the numbers on that.
That's true. That's right. That's what all of them dropped out. It was all of them dropped out.
And I want to say something.
Bernie, he dropped out a couple of times later.
I want to say something about, and let me say something about Bernie right quick. I just want to bring something to you. Mm-hmm. Bernie Sanders is the fakest populist ever. Okay? Because he's a populist that sold out his base.
I agree totally. I agree totally. He did it twice.
Sold out his base.
He did it twice. They did you wrong. You talking about, and what bothers me about Sanders is this. He's so, well, you know, we're a democracy. We always do things up and up. There was no fraud. What? Here they defrauded you 2 times. They finagled and wheeled and dealed, did all kind of undercutting of you 2 times. And you jumped in, supported Hillary. Oh, I'm going to support her. And did it, you rallied for Hillary more than Hillary rallied for Obama when she lost to him. You did more rallies and more speeches in her favor. Same with Joe Biden. Kept on calling him my friend. Joe Biden didn't call him friend one time during the campaign. Now he's calling him friend, naturally. The thing's over. Now he's done won. He can be magnanimous now. But during the primaries and during the campaign, Joe Biden didn't call him friend once. But every time you talk about here he got what you call him, Bernie talking about my friend. I think he can be a good president. What are you talking about, man? You're running against a man. I really think in my mind of minds, I don't know why he's done it. I think there's something sinister about it a little bit in my own mind. Because first of all, you're not even a Democrat. You're an independent. That's why they don't like you. Because they feel that there should have been a Democrat that actually ran for president and should have had the success you had. You took away from their party. And you're so willing to acquiesce to that party, he would have done better if he'd have been independent. He would have done better if he'd have been independent. But he's trying to skirt the thing and trying to march to the tune of the Democrats. Democrats don't like anybody but their own little inner circle. Don't be deceived about it. Oh, yeah, they have finesse. They have class. They know how to talk. They go tap your little baby on the behind and kiss your little children on the cheek and all that kind of stuff that they do. Come to your church and sing Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, save the wretch like me and all that. They know how to work the politics. They're experts at it. They're experts at it. Lyndon Johnson was an expert at it as a majority leader during his time in the Senate. You had Phil Bright, who was the majority leader. They said the greatest majority leader. He was a Democrat. He knew how to finagle and wheel and deal better than any politician in history. And then you had Biden. He too, Judiciary Chairman during his time in the Senate, knew how to wheel and deal all the way. I mean, these people are politicians supreme. They can flim flam, scam better than anybody. They love gestures and symbolism. They know how to get to your heart. They know how to tap into you. You ignore them. How could any black person have voted for Biden after the horrific record he had as a senator? How could you vote for Biden even last year, saying to us that if you vote for Trump, you're not black? How could you vote for a man that said the early part of 2020 that he would not even consider reparations unless it included Native Americans? How can you vote for a person who continuously ignores you? Met with the 7 black civil rights leaders just a couple of months ago, last month, December, and treated them like they were children. What I say goes, and what I go says. What? Some of these men are as old as you are, in their 60s and 70s like you are, and you're talking to these people like they're kids, reprimanding, getting them straight. Who the heck do you think you are? And we voted for him nevertheless. We vote for Maxine Waters, who has done nothing for in her district in California. We keep on bringing her back. Jim Clyburn, nothing for the people there in South Carolina in his district. Bring them back again. Some of these people are 20, 30, 40 years. What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us?
Okay, hold on.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Gavin, no, you're all right, man. You're all right.
I'm sorry. It gets on me a little bit.
It's okay. Okay, it's all right. Ask Bishop, what does he think of Biden's first 100 days?
I think it's a travesty. His priority is his first day. He said he's going to make sure the LGBT community is brought up to par to every other community. He's going to waive all kinds of things, going to do all kinds of changes to make them more than first-class citizens. I mean, he's going to make them paramount citizens, as far as I'm concerned, premium citizens. And then within the 100 days, he's going to do all he can to make illegal immigration legal.
Yeah.
And where do we fall in? Where do we fall in these 100 days? Where do we fall in for the next 4 years? He ain't talking about nothing about us at all. Where do we fall in this? You're going to help the LGBT community. And then they keep on saying, like Kamala said, I'm not going to do anything specifically for black folk, but you do things specifically for everybody but us. So if you're going to be like that, then I'm not going to show favoritism at all. Then don't show favoritism toward anybody. You show favoritism toward everybody but us. And I'm tired of the fact that we accept that, well, next time will be your time. We've been here, some say even before 1619, but I believe it was 1619, whatever you believe, we've been here a heck of a long time. And we can say that without fear of contradiction. We've been here too long to still be falling for the next time. What next time? Which generation? What my great-great-great-grandchildren are old? Because so far, 1619, if that's the date you want to use, which I use, that's what 402 years ago. There's 20 years in every generation. Okay? Every 20 years is another generation. So if you're talking about 402 years, how many generations is that? How many times it will be your time? How many times we're dealing with the same issues that they dealt with way back there during Frederick Douglass's time, during Nat Turner's time, during Gabriel Prosper's time, and before. We're dealing with the same issues. There's no ethnic group that is dealing with the problems that their great-great-grandparents 6 times removed dealt with, and they're still with the same one today. No group. Everybody has advanced significantly. We still are the bottom of the barrel in every category in this country. Every single category. Wealth gap, we're the bottom of the barrel. Unemployment, bottom of the barrel. Housing, bottom of the barrel. Infrastructure problems within our neighborhood, bottom of the barrel. Crime, bottom of the, we are the bottom of the barrel in everything, and we continue to be the bottom of the barrel, because like I always say, we came here on the bottom of a ship, and we haven't gotten out of the bottoms yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this. Hey, Dr. Common Johnson said, "Preach, Bishop." Yeah, you are getting kind of preachy. But yeah, okay. Don't forget, to make you get let me see. One more question for you. Okay, say that again. Gavin said, because we are stupid. Don't forget, he's gonna make sure you get that needle in your arm. Oh yeah. Anybody wants to talk about that, look at my interview with Miss Chanel Dawson, and you could find out about that. So I mean, it is what it is. But I'm just gonna say, Bishop, glad you was able to come on tonight. It was an honor again, once again, my friend. You got a little bit amped up, but hey man, I mean,
I apologize. I apologize.
No, good. I can raise the bar too, but I'm a little bit.
I know you can. I know. I've been on shows. You raised.
Yeah, I can raise the bar too.
Yes, you can.
But
we're gonna have a guest on that knows how to raise the bar. Judge Brown, you know.
Yeah. So not okay. Dr. Carmen Johnson. She says not her. Monique 2C Gavin. Michael Aaron says, "Preach is good, Bishop. You sure they were?"
Good evening, everybody.
But before I run off to do this other one with him, I need you to shout out your contact information.
Okay, my contact, Gerald Scott on Facebook.
On Wednesday. Call the show on Wednesday. My fault. Sorry.
Oh yeah, we Real Talk with the G-Man every Wednesday, 6 p.m. on Blog Talk Radio, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Blog Talk Radio. Tomorrow we'll be talking about Inauguration Day. What does it mean for Black America?
Gotcha. Phone number?
515-602-9655. That's the call-in number. You want to enter into the queue, just press the number 1, and you can participate in the program.
All right. Well, I do appreciate you coming on, and I thank you for the invite. Yes, sir. I caught you. I know I caught you at the last minute, but I said I'd get you on today, and I had to do it. So take your time and have a good night.
And you do the same. I'll talk to you in a few minutes. I'll be seeing you in a few minutes. I'm going to tune in to your next program.
Well, keep up the good work, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
You too.